Look Scott, the deal's off. I've had enough. I was only going to go down to 110. I've been at 105 for long enough now. I'm calling it off. The deal is off. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I packaged my first off-market, almost 30% below market value buy-to-let. So I'll start back in January when I joined BNI, and essentially a big part of BNI is you ask for referrals and the people in the group look for the referral type that you asked for. So my referral type that time was lettings agents, mainly independent lettings agents, because they would have access to off-market properties. And luckily they did know a lettings agent based in Rotherham, and that lettings agent is open to collaboration because they've worked with deal packagers before. So I set up a meeting with that lettings agent to discuss if I could help his landlord sell their properties quick and off-market whilst ensuring that he maintains the business of them moving forward. So the agent said that he liked that idea and we decided to move forward working together. He then forwarded me a few properties that were off market, and then I posted them in Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups. I sent them to investors that I kinda knew. Bearing in mind this was very early days, so I tried to post it like everywhere possible, social media as well. So as I mentioned before, I put in the PPN group that I had two deals that were off market and below market value ready to go, and I got a response from an investor. He was very active, and luckily enough he was interested in two of them. After we spoke, he instructed his project manager to view both of the properties on his behalf, but sadly it turned out that one of the properties were in that poor of a condition that even if we offered what it was worth, it still would have been too much of an insult to the vendor, and we didn't move forward with that one. But on the second one, it was in good condition. It was below market value and the vendor wanted a quick sale. So luckily the investor was a cash buyer, and this definitely helped move forward into negotiations. Now after a few weeks of intense negotiations, all of the calls, all of the emails, the back and forths, we managed to get the vendor down to 105,000, but the investor was dead set at 102,000. So I thought to myself, well, what if I take £1,000 off my fee and put it towards the offer, because I really needed the money and I also really needed the credibility of having a deal completed. The investor was obviously happy with that. That brings the offer up to 103,000, but the vendor is 105,000. On a Tuesday morning, the vendor calls me and he says, "Look Scott, the deal's off. I've had enough. I was only going to go down to 110. I've been at 105 for long enough now, and your investor has not come up to meet me in the middle, so I'm calling it off. The deal is off." I was obviously heartbroken about this because I just put months of really hard work into this and I couldn't afford for it now to be called off. So I called him up, I spoke with him. Essentially he said he'd have a think about it because I said to him, "It's a cash offer and we can get the survey done by Friday. We can have the deal completed in the next 4 to 6 weeks if you say yes today." Now that evening he said to me, "Scott, look, I want to go forward with this. The deal is back on, providing we have surveys done by Friday and we have the deal completed in 4 to 6 weeks, just like I said we would." I said, "Look, that's fair enough." I spoke with the investor, he agreed. Bearing in mind, I did pre-check this with the investor. I don't make promises without pre-checking with the client first. So my investor was happy with this, the vendor had his conditions, and we got the survey organized for Thursday. The survey came back and it was all good. It was all thumbs up from the survey. So legals finally started, but 4 weeks into legals, just as the deal was about to close, the interest rates go up. Now this was awful news and I knew it was going to impact the deal at any moment. A week or two go by and I don't hear anything from my client, so I think the deal is safe. And then the phone rings. So he calls me up and he's like, "Scott, as you know, the interest rates have gone up, so it does affect the price of this deal. So I'm gonna have to change the offer from 103,000 to 95,500. And as we know, the vendor is already pissed off about being at 103,000. So I felt sick when I heard this. So the next day I spoke with the vendor and I told him, I was like, "Look, this is the new offer and here's why." And he told me the deal is off. I didn't know what to do, man. I just felt awful. I tried to figure out a solution to this. So I spoke with my client. I was like, there has to be another way we can get the offer back up to 103,000. We figured out that if we can get the rent a bit higher, then it makes the numbers work and we can go back to the original offer. So I decided I'm going to call all the lettings agents. I'm going to do all the research I can, speak with people that I know and see if we can get the rent up. And it turns out that we actually could. We didn't realize that the rent wasn't as high as it should have been. It was below market value rent. So we got the rent up to the numbers that definitely worked. We called the vendor and told him that the offer is now back to 103,000. I'm really sorry for the stress, because it was pretty stressful for that 24 hours. So the next week comes, and by Tuesday, the deal is actually completed. I got my first deal. I felt very credible. I felt very happy. It was a long journey to get to that first deal completed. And I managed to get obviously the money in my bank, and that was really great. But just the feeling of having that first deal, it was just incredible. And it definitely paid off in the end.